Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of The Story of. This time we're going to be doing tackling is more like it. The story of Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. Yes, I realized that I haven't done Peace Walker yet, but I asked what people wanted to see next, and they said they wanted this one. This has the least amount of cutscenes of any Metal Gear game. I think because Kojima and crew heard the backlash from Metal Gear Solid 4, so they decided, okay, we'll do a lot less. And so a lot of this story is buried in cassette tapes. So Metal Gear Solid 5 is broken up into two different games. Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes and Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain. Ground Zeroes was released March 2014. That was a year before Metal Gear Solid 5, the full game, was released. Development was taking too long for Metal Gear Solid 5, so they decided to release it as a standalone game, so people could get their hands on it before waiting a full year. And with Ground Zeroes, the world was introduced to the glorious Fox engine created by Kojima Productions. MGS5 featured many new mechanics, but most notably were the ability to mark enemies with your binoculars and a short window reflex which slowed down time if you were spotted, allowing for you to have a moment to, silence the enemy. We also had the Phantom Cigar, which sped up time, and a companion system where we could choose a companion to come with us on a mission. Okay, let's dive into it. Ground Zeroes is set in 1975, only a few months after the Peace Walker incident. We are still part of Militaires Sans Frontières, and it's Big Boss, Kaz, and Huey. We have an inspection by the UN who suspects that we have nukes, which is true because we have Metal Gear Zeke, but they don't know that. As we're prepping for the visit, we submerge Zeke underwater, and we get a bunch of the men off the base. We get word from MSF agents working with Amanda in Cuba, remember her? That Paz, remember her? Survived and is at a black site called Camp Omega. Chico, remember him? is supposed to go off base and meet up with his sister, but instead hears the news about Paz and goes to save her and gets himself captured. Kaz and Big Boss decide to rescue Paz because she's the only connection they have to Cypher, and also to rescue Chico, obviously. Ground Zeroes begins with this shady figure visiting a boy in a cell. He says, "She told us everything and didn't suffer long." He gives the boy a Walkman and taunts him about being a traitor.
How's it feel to play the traitor?
It's Chico! The man tells Chico to say hello to his boss for him, and Chico takes a headphone plug out of his chest. The figure leaves with his men, and we hear Kaz talking to Big Boss. We see this guy is badly scarred. He removes the Zoff logo from the helicopter and says, "Trojan horse is in." Who is this guy? We don't really know, but his name is Skullface. Kojima names. They depart. We see the Zoff, which is obviously Fox backwards, soldiers taking their logos off and throwing them out of the helicopter. So Big Boss arrives at Camp Omega. We get our first look at the Kiefer Sutherland version of Snake, aka Big Boss, aka Snake, aka Vic Boss, aka Punish Snake. As we make our way through Camp Omega, we locate an area full of prisoners in cages like animals. We find Chico, but he starts freaking out, he's afraid, and he starts to draw attention of the other prisoners, so we kind of have to choke him to sleep. Paz is not in her cage. Chico has bolts in his Achilles, so we have to carry him to our support chopper. While we wait for the chopper, Chico wakes up and he shares what's on the cassette tape. It's Paz's screams. He says she's dead. We get Chico out of there and continue to locate Paz by listening to said cassette tape. We find her. She does not look good. Her hair is cut short and she looks close to death. We cut her down and carry her out until we can call the chopper and take off. And Paz is on. Paz is bleeding heavily and Chico finds an incision on her stomach. Thank God we have a medic on the chopper and he investigates said incision and finds out she has a bomb in her. It's ticking. There's no time for anesthesia, so we have to open her up fully conscious, even though she's knocked out, and obviously she wakes up, so yikes. She screams, and it's really graphic and pretty hard to watch, but they remove the bomb, and it has a peace sign on it. Boss throws it off the helicopter, and the medic stitches her up. Everything's looking good. Huey calls and tells Boss that the inspection will be complete by the time we get home. Cool, everything must be running smoothly. Not. Moments later, we see that Mother Base is completely under attack. We spot Kaz fighting with our MSF troops against some unknown enemy. We jump down to help in the fight and get Miller out of there and as many of our men as possible. We board the helicopter just in the nick of time as Mother Base falls into the sea. The Mother Base we spent the entirety of Peace Walker building is gone. The inspection was clearly a smokescreen, and one of the best lines in Metal Gear history is born.
They played us like a damn fiddle!
Kaz looks at Paz, that sounds funny, and starts blaming her for the attack. And yeah, he's using the B word. Yep. She wakes up and tells us that she has a bomb in her. She knows it's in there. And boss assures her they took it out, and she says there's another. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. There is a snook in her sniz. Paz jumps out of the helicopter just before she explodes, causing both of our helicopters to crash into one another. Black screen. The U.S. claims no responsibility for the incident, and it says there are no known survivors. The after-credits scene, which is in every single Metal Gear, is Skullface talking about Zero and how he's disappeared from the face of the earth. He says that Paz is the only person who has seen him face-to-face, and he asks her, where is Zero? And it leaves us on a cliffhanger of Paz saying, Zero is, and trails off. Boom, Ground Zeroes is done. So it's time to move on to Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. The Phantom Pain is set in the year 1984, 9 years after Ground Zeroes, and 11 years before Metal Gear. It begins with a shot of a mirror in outer heaven. There's a cassette tape labeled The Man Who Sold the World, yes, like the David Bowie song. And we see Snake picking it up and turning it on. Cue the song, which I love this version. I might love this version even more than the original. Don't kill me. We open our eyes to a blurry world. A nurse comes to tend to us, and one of them realizes, oh my god, this guy's awake. And it fades to black. V has come to. We meet the doc, and he tells us to fill out some of our information, which you get to do as the player. So, of course, in my case, boss was named Amanda. You know, normal. Doc informs us we've been in a coma for 9 years. Fudge. We start to trip out. Obviously, that's a long time to be asleep, and they have to inject us with something. Good night. A week later, we wake up, and he tells us there was an explosion, and we're covered in shrapnel and even bones from our dead comrades. Rough. And, you know, just to mention, we have a piece of metal sticking out of our head, and they can't remove it or we'll die. So we now have that in our head. And then we find out the biggest kicker of all, that we are missing our hand and part of our arm. That's a lot to handle, and we pass out again. Now it's been 2 weeks. Doc is back, and he tells us our enemies are all around and that we need to leave before we get killed. So clearly somebody has figured out that we are alive and well. He shows us a mirror and that he's going to change our appearance. You get to decide as the player. I just made mine a generic white guy with brown hair, so yeah. Doctor says our name from here on out is Ahab. While he's chit-chatting, we see a nurse behind him being choked. He's oblivious, and apparently we're not saying anything about it. The doctor shows us 2 pictures of us before the crash in front of the helicopter. Cool. Before we know it, the doctor is now being attacked, and he kicks us off the bed and ends up dying. The assassin, we hear her talking on the radio saying the patient in the other bed saw my face. She turns to shoot us, and a bandaged man jumps out, and they struggle. Mystery man throws something at her, and he ends up getting stabbed. She starts choking us, and then all of a sudden she's on fire and falls out the window. And there's some familiar petals falling from the sky. This man knows our name, somehow, and sounds just like Kiefer Sutherland, so that's a little bit strange. He even says,
You're talking to yourself.
And that he's been watching us for 9 years, and we can call him Ishmael. Ishmael's gonna help us get out of here. He gets us to our feet, gives us some medication to help our muscles, and we follow him. We get to stare at Ishmael's butt for 45 minutes or whatever this is. We come to an elevator and find a small redhead child floating. And yes, instantly you look at this and you think this looks like the kid version of Psycho Mantis. Is it? We'll find out. Suddenly the elevator bursts into flames and we see this Volgan-like figure engulfed in flames coming towards us, and it's pretty terrifying. But thanks to some sprinklers, he goes away. So we just continue sneaking through the hospital, avoiding enemies, and they are just taking everybody out, and it's pretty brutal, and really don't want to be caught by these guys. Ishmael saves us from being mowed down quite a few times, and we end up playing dead while this creepy kid floats around and the man on fire, is staying busy. We run away and he follows until water again. Cool. We take out the enemies and Ishmael goes to find us a vehicle so we can get the hell out of Dodge. Well, creepy kid is back and so is man on fire. So we have to deal with them and try to run out of the building, and thankfully Ishmael slams into man on fire with the ambulance and we get in. Let's bounce. A helicopter starts shooting at us and Ishmael ends up getting knocked out. The car crashes, we get knocked out. We wake up and Ishmael is gone. And then this helicopter gets eaten by a giant whale. Yes, a fiery unicorn. Yep, what a sight. We run, obviously, and are greeted by Ocelot on a white horse, and a chase ensues. Lightning erupts and we are knocked off the horse. Ocelot helps us up and introduces himself. We already know who you are, dude. He tells us Kaz sent him in to help. We were considered dead, and Cypher finally found our location today. Our first mission is to save Miller in Afghanistan. 4 years ago, he was captured by the Soviets. Kaz was there training troops, and they've been interrogating him ever since. We travel by ship, and Ocelot helps us heal, and we get our bionic arm. gonna be a montage. Finally, we arrive in Afghanistan. He gives us Kaz's glasses because that's all we got, and Kaz needs to look cool when we get him.
Let the legend come back to life.
We have to gather some intel on where Kaz is located, and we end up finding him tied up with a bag on his head. He has a bloody eye, he's missing an arm, and a leg. Jesus. It's okay though. Here, you got your glasses. Let's go. So we've got Pequod, who's going to be our pilot throughout the whole entire game, so get used to hearing Pequod. Suddenly, a gas covers the air, and he's unable to pick us up. These zombie-like creatures appear, and Kaz refers to them as the Skulls. Ugh, the Skulls. You do not want to be seen by these guys, you don't want to deal with these guys, but we managed to lose them, and Kaz tells us they come in a mist and that they attack the rest of the MSF survivors. Now that we've found Kaz, it's time to return to a new mother base that is being built. Kaz reminisces about our last mother base and what they took away. Get used to this revenge, Kaz. Our new home is called Diamond Dogs because we are dogs of war. And why are we here?
Just to suffer.
So, we get our first look at Mother Base. Like Peace Walker, we are the ones in charge of growing it again. We land on Mother Base and Ocelot's there to greet us. Kaz talks about revenge. We say we're already a demon. And Kaz gives us a little pep talk before he's carted off. And now it's our turn to check out Mother Base. When we're out on missions, Ocelot sometimes urges us to come back to Mother Base to help raise morale, aka throw some people around, to rest, and to shower when we're covered in blood. We are introduced to our helicopter mission selection, where we get to decide the order of missions we want to take. And while we're out and about, we can find a little wolf dog, which is a little baby wolf dog, and take him to Mother Base, of course. And when he is old enough, he can assist us on missions. His name is Dee, and he's amazing. And he freaking can carry a knife in his mouth. Come on, it's great. Okay, so let's get into it. So these are some of the main missions of the game. I decided to focus on things that were story-driven instead of some of the side stuff. Our first mission is to find the honeybee weapon, but things are again covered in mist. So, Creepy Kid arrives, and we are grabbed by a giant hand. Totally normal. Skullface appears, he lets us go for some reason, and this giant robot thing walks away. We have no idea what's going on, but now we're left to deal with the skulls. So, yeah, it's fun. Next, Diamond Dogs get word of a scientist that wants to defect to MSF. Well, Diamond Dogs. And his name is Emmerich. Yep, it's Huey Emmerich. We suspected that he had something to do with the attack 9 years ago and that he'd been working with Cypher. So Kaz wants us to catch up with him. Definitely not going to be any torture involved, I swear. On our way to Emmerich, we get informed about a sniper in the area known as Quiet. So of course, on our journey to Emmerich, we're targeted by said sniper. This Quiet sniper jumps around crazily, she can disappear, and basically shows a lot of the same characteristics as the skulls, but we are still able to best her. Kaz wants us to give her a bullet in the skull immediately, but Ocelot wants us back at Mother Base with her to interrogate her. So we choose to handcuff her, and Kaz is pissed off. We board the helicopter, and it takes like 2 seconds for her to get out of the handcuffs, and she disappears. Not without a couple of nice boob shots, because Kojima loves the ladies. So she's gone. Alright, cool. We just go to Mother Base anyways. And as we approach Mother Base, we are targeted by a jet. And the jet launches a missile right at us, and right before the missile hits, Quiet reappears at the machine gun, and she destroys it. So suddenly we are now on the same side. She takes aim with her sniper and kills the pilot with one hell of a shot. As we approach Mother Base, 2 of our helicopters have taken aim at Quiet. Kaz just doesn't want to let it go. Quiet jumps out of the plane, and it's kind of like a flying squirrel thing that she's doing, and lands behind Kaz. He's just so thrilled to see her. Ocelot orders the men to grab her. Kaz and Ocelot fight. Throughout this game, they are like 2 siblings that are just bickering with each other constantly, and Big Boss is always in the middle of it, so he's just like, shut up, put her in a cell, and Kaz is angry about it. Now, getting back to Emmerich, we find his location, and we hear Emmerich arguing with Skullface about a new Metal Gear, and that it is not operational yet. Skullface learns that Emmerich has been in communication with Big Boss. Well, he gets thrown down some stairs and breaks his new legs. Skullface comments Sahelanthropus is his. Huey asks if Skullface is going to kill him, but Skullface says, you'll get what you deserve, but we're going to take you to the base. So they leave the area with Emmerich, giving me major Metal Gear Rex vibes sitting in there like that. Now our mission is to get to this base camp where Emmerich is being held. Kaz tells us about Skullface being the commander of Cypher's strike force, Zoff, and that he's likely behind the attack 9 years ago. We reach the lab where Emmerich is being held and find the mammal pod. It's not you, is it? Snake tells himself it's just a machine, and we see Emmerich. Don't you want to punch that face? We clip his wings a little bit and head back to Mother Base using a walker gear and ragdoll his ass. He explains he was making a bipedal weapon for the Soviets under Skullface and that he was forced to do it. Pequod attempts to land, but out of the sky comes, creepy kid in a giant Metal Gear. He's holding Skullface in his hands, and Huey can't believe that it's actually operational. It shouldn't be. Skullface bounces, and now we have to run from this gigantic Metal Gear to get to the chopper. We machine gun the thing down for now. Shut up, Huey. Just shut up. Mother Base has a room 101. Ocelot is getting ready to torture Huey, and he claims to be on our side. Kaz is not happy. Ocelot injects him with some truth serum. It's not working, so Kaz takes his leg control and starts to bend it backwards. He's still not talking, so Big Boss doesn't want to do anything to him unless we get proof that he was the one behind the attack. So for now, he's going to stay here as our prisoner. Ocelot relays to us that Huey said Cypher is doing new research in Africa, possibly on a weapon to surpass Metal Gear. Ocelot tells us Zero hasn't been seen in 10 years and that he was already bedridden when the attack on Mother Base occurred. So who was calling the shots? Maybe it was Skullface. He was the commander of Zoff, but he split from Zero and then he used Zoff to basically mutiny Cypher itself. So we're not technically going against Zero and Zero's Cypher. We're going against Zoff and Zoff's Cypher. Does that make sense? Listening to a cassette tape of Huey's interrogation, he explains he wanted the UN check to happen to exonerate MSF, that we didn't have any nukes, look at us, we're doing great. He claims he didn't know Zoff was going to attack. But we learned Strangelove, who used to work for us, chose to leave the organization right before the attack. So it looks a little bit fishy because Huey clearly had a relationship with Strangelove, so fishy. So if Cypher is in Africa, we're going to Africa. We've taken a job to help with this oil leak. Everything we do is really just to get to Cypher. So any mission we're on, there's some sort of ulterior motives that we have. Long story short, we blow some crap up and we find some bodies with these strange looking lungs. Our next mission, we have to locate and steal a Cypher truck that's part of this large convoy. And of course it's important because the Skulls happen to be defending it, so we have to deal with them. And to be honest, I hated this mission. Anyways, we end up stealing the truck and find out that it has this raw material for making nuclear weapons. We are called back to Mother Base regarding Quiet. We enter her cell area and Ocelot says she refuses to wear clothes. She knows English, but she won't talk, doesn't eat, and she doesn't sweat. We find out she breathes through her skin and not her lungs, and therefore clothing suffocates her. I see what you did there, Kojima. There is a reason for it. It actually does make sense of the story, but I mean, come on, he just wanted her to be this really scantily clad girl and not get any crap for it, so storyline. And that's how she consumes water. She basically is a plant because she does photosynthesis. Ocelot recommends for her to go on missions with us to help us out, and she wants to come with. And so Ocelot says, yeah, let's do it. But Kaz, of course, gets angry about it and doesn't want her to go. Kaz is basically like, how do you know she's even going to help out? So Ocelot says, hey, shoot between the helicopter blades. Of course, she passes with flying colors because she's a bad ace. She definitely is useful, right? Boss has her stay, though, because how are they going to communicate if she doesn't talk? And he likes to work alone anyway. Bye, Quiet, you're stuck here. Next mission. We do a little bit of assassination work here and there, things to pay the bills, whatever. But we're tasked with killing 6 targets due to a civil war conflict. We go on site, we locate the targets, and the targets happen to be child soldiers. Yeah, that's not great. Kids offer us some diamonds. Looks like we're gonna take some kiddos back to Mother Base. Kaz, of course, wants to turn the kids into killing machines because it's Kaz. And Kaz has to show off that he can disarm kids with just one arm. It's pretty awesome. So if you remember the walker gear from when we picked up Emmerich, these things have been popping up all over the place. So Emmerich says, hey, let's make a spin-off Metal Gear because these things are so popular and we need to be able to defeat them easily. So we say, okay, sure. Now that we have all these kids on base, we find out that they have a leader and we need to go get him. We find his location at this place called the Devil's House. And boy, they nailed the name because this place is full of terror, like a horror game in this area. It's full of people with holes in their throats and headphones inside a la Chico. We see their lungs look like bodies that we saw before, and they're kind of oozing and they have these bumps on them. We find this kid and he is not looking good, so he gives us a necklace. I think he knows. Of course, before we can extract him, Skullface stops by and we're kind of hiding out and he just ends up destroying somebody. And the kid starts convulsing, and so Skullface sees us, but he's not really concerned and he just tells us to burn with the rest. So clearly something bad's gonna happen. Yep, creepy kid appears again, and so does the Man on Fire. Man on Fire comes towards us, but he kind of freezes freezes, and creepy kid leaves him and goes and checks out the boy. Sees the boy pass, and then he comes back to Man on Fire and resumes. So clearly there's a connection between these two, and that if creepy kid is not paying attention, Man on Fire stops. We now have to battle them until the chopper can pick us up. Yay, chopper. Back at Mother Base, the kids are hanging out, and we deliver the necklace, so they know that their leader is gone. Anytime we're out on the battlefield, Kaz and crew are recording it. So they recorded the tape we heard at the Devil's House. And the voice recordings are just a bunch of random radio and TV shows. There's no connection to anything, but they are all in different languages. So what does that mean? More on that later. We get word that there are more of these child soldiers and they are just messing up some villages around them. So we're tasked with extracting their leader. Basically, if we get the leader out, then all the kids won't know what to do without their leader. So our goal is to pick up this kid called the White Mamba, aka a kid named Eli. We locate him on a boat and get all sorts of Lord of the Flies vibes. And yeah, we're fighting a little brat. Like, this kid is a freaking brat. But we end up hog-tying his ass and head to Mother Base. The cojones on this kid, though. He just keeps burning Big Boss and ends up getting his arm pulled out of place. So, you know, that's what you get. Kid's got spunk. Kind of reminds me of someone. Kaz calls us to talk about Eli. Apparently, one of the products of Les Enfants Terribles went missing in Africa. He matches the age, so they're going to run a DNA test. We're going to find out. Are we the father? On Mother Base, the soldier starts tripping balls, and Quiet is coming after him. She basically knocks out all the soldiers and shoves a knife in this guy's mouth. Big Boss comes and, you know, we fight each other. Ocelot ends up shooting her with something and she passes out. We have no idea what the heck that was about. We go about our business, and then Ocelot calls to tell us that staff are getting sick on Mother Base, and people are actually dying. And the guy that Quiet attacked is actually one of the men included. It's like these people have a cold, but they're getting these chest blisters. A quarantine zone is created on Mother Base. We are tasked with figuring out what connects those who are infected, and realize that the only connection is they speak the same language. So we quarantine everyone on base who speaks that language. Someone from our intel team ended up getting captured, and we need him because he knew some information about this illness. We go to get him, but he ends up passing, but not before we get some info out of him. We learn that it's a pathogen, and there's this old man who can help us named Code Talker. It's time to pay him a visit. Of course, he's under control of Zoff. On our way there, we are hit with some more mist, and yep, more skulls. But this time, there are a bunch of ladies. There's just a bunch of snipers. We get through, and we find Code Talker at the bottom of this epic mansion, and he's got some epic candles. I don't know why they let him have so many candles, but I guess he requested it. He tells us to literally shut up, and that our life depends on it. Literally. Code Talker tells us of a parasite, and that the bumps on the chest are actually larvae. They attach to vocal cords and mate when they hear a specific sound. Once they mate, they start to feast on the lungs, and that ends up killing the person. A particular sound, aka certain languages, could actually kill somebody. And silence is the only way to keep it from spreading. Code Talker gives us some magical ganja that the parasites hate, just in case we were infected, and that there's no cure. Skullface made Code Worker talk for him. He didn't really have any choice, and he had to help him make these parasites. We're just constantly slinging people over our shoulders in this game. We learn that Skullface wants to teach the parasites his enemy's language so they can be unleashed and kill everyone in the area speaking that language. Basically, ethnic cleansers. Oy, that is really, really bad. Skullface wants to wipe out every language except for English. Pequod ends up getting us out of Dodge, though. Once we're on the helicopter, we get to get more information out of Code Talker about how to fight the parasites. He explains that he has a special strain of parasite that can make them all male so that they can't create more babies. Basically, it's like how Jurassic Park created all of their dinosaurs to be male so that they wouldn't breed. But you know how that worked out. This is actually supposed to work, but there's a catch. The catch is it affects the host as well, and so anyone that gets this specific parasite in them will make them sterile. But, you know, the alternative is dying, so I don't think they'll mind too much. We also learned that the skulls are of a different strain, one that covers and acts as the host's skin. Code Talker wants to know where that metal archaea is. Archaea? The metal stuff we stole from the convoy truck. Suddenly, the mist comes again and everything begins to rust. No, Pequod! Pequod! The helicopter goes down. Here they come. They start affecting others, and it's big, big battle time. We make it through. Barely. Code Talker says Skullface plans to sell nukes to everyone, but that he'll still have some control over the nukes even after people take them. But the real kicker is that if he's giving everybody nukes, then they're no longer a deterrent. We arrive at Mother Base again and are tasked with creating more of this Code Talker bacteria, Wolbachia strain, to give to our men. Yay, crisis averted. We begin to burn the bodies of our fallen. And Ocelot's getting ready to burn Huey. He ends up singing about Sahelanthropus' location and that Skullface is using the nukes as a distraction to use parasites instead. He's a big baddie, and it's time to get rid of him. Boss wants backup, so Kaz and crew are coming. And of course, Huey wants to come too because, he's just an idiot. And apparently, Eli snuck on as well. Skullface already released the Russian strain in the area, so all the Soviet soldiers are already gone. We catch up to Skullface, and, Creepy Kid is there, of course. He starts talking about how both of us are demons, but I'm like, speak for yourself, bro. Boss is surrounded by Zoff, so we really have no other choice other than to follow him. And so begins the longest car ride in media history. And there's not even that much information going on. It's weird. Not one of my favorite Metal Gear moments. We learned that Skullface was actually some of our backup during the Snake Eater incident. And because of this, he knew what Zero was up to and insisted he knew what the boss really wanted. Do you see a pattern here? Skullface is mad about his childhood. He's got a lot of trauma and he wants total control over the world. So Sahelanthropus will help him do that. And after 7 years, finally, we're back to the hangar where Sahelanthropus is being held. Skullface says that the man on fire, who is clearly Volgin, yes, Volgin, we can say that now, lives because of Big Boss. That Volgin's thirst for revenge made it so he was easily reanimated, and it's basically kept him alive with the help of this creepy kid. Skullface wants the man on fire to get us, but he suddenly stops. Creepy Kid is distracted. The man on fire just ends up walking away, and Skullface is like, what the hell? Like, this isn't part of the plan. And man on fire ends up dying. Creepy Kid ends up latching onto Eli's hatred instead of Volgin's, and they are actually able to make Sahelanthropus fully functional. And they take it. Such a lust for revenge. Sahelanthropus destroys the troops and starts running after us. This thing is insane, it's huge, it's terrifying. And it's much crazier than the later Metal Gears. Everyone always talks about how they kind of went backwards in technology. Skullface is surrounded by fire. He basically accepts that it's over for him, but his plan has already been put into motion, so he seems to be okay with it. Sahelanthropus stomps him, and we're just trying to get out of there. So now we're face to face with Sahelanthropus, and we have to defeat it, and it is quite the battle. But we end up defeating it. And just as it goes down, Eli is back in his body, so to speak. So we definitely see that he was controlling it with Creepy Kid. We get picked back up by the chopper. Kaz and Snake have a moment. This is like so great for fanfics, I'm telling you. And now it's time to go see where Skullface is. We find him stuck under some debris, and it's kind of a gruesome sight, and he has this canister of parasites with him. We of course take it, but one is missing. Snake throws them into the fire, but we don't notice Creepy Kid taking one. That's not gonna be good. Skullface asks us to kill him, but we refuse. Kaz takes the gun and shoots his limbs, that revenge thing.
Do it yourself.
We start to walk away, let him just suffer, and Huey picks up the gun and says, I did it! He's the worst. We return to Mother Base and have some epic shots of us walking paired with some phantom pains and how we'll move on from here. We took Sahelanthropus with us, of course, and together we will all be one with this great weapon and no one will be able to stop us. But Eli is still here, and Eli is looking at Sahelanthropus, and Creepy Kid comes over and gives him the parasite tube. These two are going to be friends for quite some time. Kaz is addressing the Diamond Dog troops. We learn that Volgin's body has been recovered, and we want to go bring it to Mother Base. We find him, and he actually comes back to life trying to choke us before he stops for a second and keels over. And we learn a little bit more information about the Creepy Kid, who is known as the Third Boy, who was a test subject who escaped. At some point, Eli threw the necklace of the kid down into an area where the kids can't go, and just as they discuss that, Quiet jumps down, and she just burns herself into a crisp while she gets the necklace for the kids. So we see that she has a bit of a soft side to her. And now she needs to get some medical help because she's just burnt. Things start to get a little bit out of control on Mother Base. Some kids end up running away, so we have to go find them and bring them back. We find out that it was Eli who has been planning an uprising, so we decide to interrogate him. He cracks up, he's just acting a fool, and all of a sudden, boom, Sahelanthropus is active again, and him and the Creepy Kid are taking it. He keeps calling us father, so he is determined that we are his father. These kids have been planning this, and they end up taking a pilot hostage and bounce. Well, Ocelot says they're looking for the kids and that the DNA results are in, but we are not the father. Cue the running around Mori. We are not the father! Say what? He was so sure. But in good news, Battle Gear is ready. And look at that familiar railgun. But we still don't really trust Emmerich, so we've decided we're going to go find that mammal pod and get some intel from it, since it was at the lab with him. We take it to Mother Base, and inside it they find a corpse. They interrogate him about it, and we find out that it was actually Strangelove who created the AI of Sahelanthropus. Huey claims that Skullface killed her, and then he claims that she killed herself, so his story's already changing. But they see that she has a C-section scar, and that they must have had a child together, and they named him Hal. Of course it's Otacon, they're the same freaking voice actor. Another outbreak happens on Mother Base. The men are quarantined again, and we end up seeing this transmission where it's looking like a zombie apocalypse in there. So now it's time for us to go in and check it out. Gotta mask up. As we go through the quarantine site, Code Talker realizes that this new strain of parasites causes the host to want to get outside, a la that very zombie behavior. So the parasites want to get the bodies outside so that when the host dies, birds who pick at the dead corpse will spread the virus. We grab a scientist's goggles and use them to see who's infected, and we have to go through the quarantine zone and take out each person. The last room, we find a bunch of people. They still have their wits about them, and they say, "Boss, you can just do the right thing. We put our trust in you." They start to hum the Peace Walker theme, and they're saluting, and it's super, super sad. Not a great moment to be Big Boss. There is one guy who actually has a mask on, so we think that he may be able to make it. We look at him, he's not infected, so we grab him, and then all of a sudden he starts getting infected really quickly. So this thing is no joke. Like, we have to take him out. We're just surrounded by death. We have our moment. We see our horn growing larger and larger, and we're just really upset. We burn more of our dead.
I won't scatter your sorrow to the heartless sea.
Huey, of course, has to act like Huey and is just completely out of line, and nobody hits him, which I'm not understanding at all. But Big Boss doesn't want to just throw their ashes to sea. He wants to take them and turn them into diamonds because, you know, we're the diamond dogs. So we'll wear them into battle. After all of this trauma, we find out that Emmerich was the reason behind the second outbreak. Huey installed some equipment and it had beta rays in it,
which in turn caused the Walbachia mutation.
The Code Talker strain was no longer working to keep the parasites at bay. Also, we learn that he's been chatting with America behind our back, DARPA, everything's connected, to try to trade the parasites for his safety. Traitor, traitor, traitor. Ocelot and Kaz put him on blast in front of all the men. We're basically having our own trial. And the mammal pod comes in as the key witness. He did trap Strangelove inside. And we learned this because I guess they had a disagreement about their kid. He had put Hal into the Metal Gear to test the cockpit, so she took the kid away from him. Still don't understand why you would get rid of her for that. Kaz says he's found guilty, but Boss stops the men from killing him for some reason. I don't understand why still. And they put him on a little boat, and they send him to shore. He says that we can't judge our enemy, but I mean, that's what we've been doing the whole game, so I'm still a little confused by that. Huey's just asking to be killed, and Kaz mentions that he's going to spread the word that diamond dogs are terrible, terrible people, and, you know, our reputation is going to get tarnished, which definitely happens in later games. In other news, while Quiet was being treated for her injuries, they did some MRIs, they did tests on her, and we learned more about her and that she is in fact infected with parasites. So, of course, Ocelot thinks, let's torture her to find out some more. What else are we gonna do? And apparently they found a pedal on her lungs from the hospital, so they make the connection that she was obviously the assassin. She's not talking, and she's not going to talk, and she's taking all this pain, but Boss says to let her go. Well, of course she's not going to speak because she doesn't want to spread the infection, so she's actually doing a good thing, and Kaz is pissed off as always. We leave, and Code Talker starts to speak to her in another language, apparently Navajo, and she responds. We learn Skullface implanted her with the English parasite to go to Mother Base and kill everyone by speaking it, but she never spoke it, and she says she never will. Sometime after that, Quiet left, and that apparently she's in Afghanistan and we need to go find her. You will receive this mission only if you do not have the butterfly emblem. We find her being toyed with some Soviet soldiers. She's wearing clothes, so she's weak. We see her being drowned and losing consciousness, and that's when the dude decides to try to pull some gross crap, but removing her pants means she's able to breathe again, so she literally kicks his dick in, and that's what you get. She ends up killing them all and gets her outfit back. It's Quiet's back. We try to come help her. We end up getting bit by a snake. I know. The tables have turned. We end up passing out because of the bite. We wake up to Quiet dragging us somewhere. We are not doing well because the venom is coursing through our veins, and she tries to tell Pequod that Boss is dying, and this is where we're at, but he can't understand her language. She finally just decides to speak English to get him to rescue the boss. She tells him our location exactly and is just gone. Snake sees our footsteps in the sand, and so we follow them, and we find a cassette tape. On it, she expresses her feelings to us, and that, she wanted to talk, but she couldn't. She underwent parasite therapy, and that's, basically how she was still alive after catching on fire and going out a window. And that's the last of Quiet, unless you play her mission over and over again. And we're back to the first mission again. Say what? This time the doctor shows us the mirror, and it's our avatar first. The doctor shows us those pictures again, but this time we grab them, revealing that there's an extra person in the picture, and good luck Big Boss written on the back. Wait, what? Fast forward, you gotta play the whole entire level over again, and we come to the crash again. And this time when we wake up, we see it from Ishmael's view. He is dragged out of the car by Ocelot, referring to him as Boss, and leaving the Phantom behind. Holy crap, that's Big Boss. Ocelot brings us to our motorcycle and gives us our new identity, which is whatever we put in at the beginning of the game. He now says the other guy will be Snake, and that he believes it. Our Phantom. We head out to go into the shadows and leave our body double behind to play us. Whoa. Sometime in the future, we see the opening bathroom scene with Venom Snake. He listens to a tape, The Man Who Sold the World. Venom Snake is the Phantom, Punish Snake is the real thing. Suddenly, we remember the events of Ground Zeroes and who we truly are.
I'm the fucking doctor!
We survived the crash. We were badly injured because we went in front of Big Boss, but we are the medic. I'm Big Boss, and so are you. Using hypnotherapy, they basically implanted Big Boss's memories into our brain so that we would believe that we were Big Boss. We seem pleased. Turning over the tape, we see Operation Intrude and 313. That's the first mission of Metal Gear. Time to take on our next big mission as Big Boss. Venom then appears in the future, drenched in blood, angrily breaking the mirror. We see the Outer Heaven logo behind us. We turn around and walk into mist. What does it mean? Fans have speculated that it's right before we go to face Solid Snake in the first Metal Gear game, and that the first Metal Gear is Venom Snake, not the real Big Boss, and that's why Big Boss is still alive in Metal Gear 2. We hear a conversation between Kaz and Ocelot. Ocelot tells him Big Boss went on to create Outer Heaven. Until it's done, they have to hang out with the fake Big Boss and support him and help him, and Kaz does not take this well. He rejects the boss's plans and says he'll make the Phantom and his son stronger to kick the boss's ass in the future.
There's only room for one boss.
Ocelot promises that if Kaz goes back to Cypher, Ocelot will take the other son and fight him in the future. So it'll be son versus son, Kaz versus Ocelot. Chapter 3 was never completed thanks to Konami, and so the end of the game is completely unfinished. But in the special features, you will find some information on how the end of the game was supposed to go. The pilot that was held hostage by the kids is found because the helicopter ran out of fuel and they just left him behind. So we located him and picked him up. He gave us an idea of where the kids were headed, and we found them on an island. Using the parasite strain that he had, Eli took out some Zoff troops. And so, of course, the rest of Zoff was trying to get him and then take over Sahelanthropus. Snake arrives to the island and finds Eli in the cockpit, just hanging out with the kids. Suddenly, the Zoff troops start to attack it. Creepy Kid puts it to a stop real quick. Eli starts Sahelanthropus and gets the soldiers until he finds that we're there. And of course, he wants revenge on us because he thinks we're his father. So we end up fighting it. Sahelanthropus ends up blown in half, and Eli and the Creepy Kid completely defeated. Zoff soldiers get to Eli first, though, and almost kill him, but we end up saving him. Before we can get to Eli, backup comes, and Snake is hit with a grenade blast, and we completely lose our sense of color. And so Eli, wearing this red outfit, suddenly looks white, and so we end up accidentally shooting Eli, thinking he was one of the Zoff soldiers. Snake screams in agony. He did not feel good about killing this kid, even though the kid's a brat. Ocelot arrives with a Diamond Dog crew, and we learn that, Eli was wearing a bulletproof vest, but he's coughing, and now he's showing signs of infection. Eli tells Snake, hey dude, I know that I was created by Cypher. I know I'm your clone, and I know that I'm the flawed clone. I'm the loser. I'm the recessive genes. That's kind of rough for a kid, right? And that's why he wants to destroy Cypher. He basically just wants his birthright back. Well, now that we know that the parasite is running rampant on this island, they're going to napalm the island. Snake leaves a gun for Eli to take care of himself. We don't want to shoot him. We leave the island, and of course we take the pieces of Sahelanthropus with us because, will be needed in the future. Eli is about to shoot himself when Creepy Kid comes back. He's still alive. He removes the parasite from Eli's lungs, and they float away together. On the chopper, we see ourselves as a demon again. We see a shot of Eli and Creepy Kid going towards New York City.
It's not over yet.
The end. But there are also lots of side missions you can do. There's also a hospital area of Mother Base that I completely missed, where Snake finds himself talking to Paz, who actually is a hallucination because obviously Paz is gone. Of course, Eli, aka Liquid Snake, is not going to be related to us by DNA because we are simply the Phantom. We are not the real Big Boss. We do not have the real Big Boss's DNA. That's the explanation for why Eli is actually not our son. And that also explains why Volgin doesn't want to get us when he has the opportunity, because he realizes at the last minute we aren't even the real big boss. So
I've left my mark. You have too. You've written your own history. You're your own man.
there you have it. That is Metal Gear Solid 5 in its entirety. This has taken me so long. I hope that this isn't dragging too long. It's a great game. Now I need to do Peace Walker to continue that cycle. And if you guys want to see me do Metal Gear 1 and Metal Gear 2, let me know in the comments down below. Also, let me know if I missed anything. I'm sure there are some things I did. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.